Yeah, let's go ahead then. So, everybody, my name is Dan from Dan's Test Prep. This is Tutor Tuesday, and today is a very special day. Not really. Basically, in all these sessions, we go over SAT and ACT style questions. So, if you guys have something that you want to submit, you can send it in the chat. Anything related to like SAT or ACT. I also have different questions on my end that I can put in for you guys. Yeah, it can be outside the SAT, but maybe around a similar scope. Because I'm not gonna. Well, actually, I kind of like calculus problems, but I'm not gonna solve like some crazy abstract algebra. AMC, yeah, you can submit those, but I can't guarantee those are hard. Anyways, I saw a suggestion for reading, so in the meantime, let me go look for some reading questions while you guys get yours. Yeah, let me see what reading topic should we do. I'm thinking. Let's do some inferences questions. Now, the reading on the digital SAT has been made a lot easier to manage. You only have one small passage per question, but still, they didn't make the difficulty that different. But let me paste in this reading question for you guys. This one says, which choice most logically completes the text? So it's usually like an inference type question. Here we are gonna have to read everything to kind of understand the context. But let's go through it. It says here, Marta Cole and colleagues' 2010 Mediterranean Sea Biodiversity Census reported approximately 17,000 species, nearly double the number reported in Carlo Bianchi's and Carlo Mori's 2000 census. So I see a discrepancy. I see Marta Cole, it was a 2010 census, 17,000 species. I see it was double the number reported in Carlo's study, Carlo and Carla's 2000 census. So already I see a discrepancy. Let me annotate that. Discrepancy. So this difference is only partly attributable to the description of new species. Only partly attributable in the interim. Okay, so there's maybe some missing factors here. Another factor is the morphological variability of microorganisms is poorly understood compared to that of vertebrates, invertebrates, plants, and algae, creating uncertainty about how to evaluate microorganisms as species. Okay, there's variability and uncertainty. That could be another reason. Researchers' decisions on such matters can therefore be highly consequential. Indeed, the two censuses reported similar counts of vertebrate, plant, and algal species, suggesting that blank. Okay, the only one I don't see here is see vertebrate, plant, and algal. What about invertebrates? That's what I'm going to be looking for in the answer choices. If it's still loading for you guys, maybe you can try leaving and rejoining, or you can follow along with the question that I sent in the chat. But let's see. So all this details here on vertebrate, plant, and algal species. What about invertebrates? Um, A says Cole and colleagues reported a much higher number of species than Bianchi and Mori did, largely due to the inclusion of invertebrate species that had not been described at the time of Bianchi and Mori's census. So this one does mention invertebrates, but it talks about species that had not been described at the time. Had not been described at the time. But it seems like that, new species was only a partial reason. New invertebrate species is only a part of the reason. Um, so we'll keep A for now, but maybe it's not the best choice. B says some differences observed in microorganisms may have been treated as variations within species by Bianchi and Mori, but treated as indicative of distinct species by Cole and colleagues. I mean, B makes the most sense to me right now, especially because it's talking about, within this sentence, it says researchers' decisions on such matters are highly consequential. The decision of how to classify these species. So I'm going to go with B for now. Bianchi and Mori may have been less sensitive to the degree of morphological variation displayed within a typical species of microorganism. This one's not really talking about invertebrates. And then D also doesn't really talk about invertebrates. But I guess B doesn't say that either. But so let me see. C and D, the absence of clarity. Maybe. Okay, so D is just the opposite of what we're looking for because it says Cole and colleagues underestimated the number of species, but their number was much higher. And then C says Bianchi and Mori may have been less sensitive to the degree of morphological variation displayed within a typical species of microorganism than Cole and colleagues were. Well, oh, you guys got in. Okay. What do you guys think? A, B, and C. So me, the best answer choice is going to be B here. Bianchi and Mori may have been less sensitive to the degree of morphological variation displayed. Yeah, looking at some of these other answer choices, looks like B is the best. That there's much larger number of species because Cole and her colleagues are treating these each as distinct species. So that's really going to affect the counts. Any disagreements there? Let's see. I guess we're all in consensus there. Oh, someone's got a reading question. Nice. This looks like yeah, let's move on to the next question. This looks like a little rhetorical synthesis question that you might find on the SAT. So let's shrink that down a little bit. Math problems. Yeah, we can do some math problems later, for sure. So this one says a student, while researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. I usually skip the notes. Let's see. It says the student wants to emphasize a similarity between the two ways a magnificent frigate bird acquires food. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? So what are we doing here? We're emphasizing a similarity between the two ways a magnificent frigate bird acquires food. Similarity. Emphasize a similarity. So I guess now I can look back to the notes. It says here, the magnificent frigate bird is a species of seabird that feeds mainly on fish, tuna, squid, and other small sea animals. It's unusual among seabirds that doesn't dive into the water for prey. One way it acquires food is by using its hook-tipped bill to snatch prey from the surface of the water. Another way it acquires food is by taking it from weaker birds by force. So there's the two ways. We want to emphasize the similarity between those two ways. So A says that magnificent frigate bird never dives into the water, instead using its hook-tipped bill to snatch prey from the surface. This doesn't really emphasize the similarity between the two. Neither of a magnificent frigate bird's two ways of acquiring food requires the bird to dive into the water. I mean, this does kind of mention a similarity, so let's go with B for now. Of the magnificent bird's two ways of acquiring food, only one is known as a kleptoparasitism. No, that's a difference. In addition to snatching prey from the water with its hook-tipped bill, a magnificent frigate bird takes food from other birds by force. That's just stating the two methods, but it doesn't state a similarity. So if we're really emphasizing a similarity here, we're going to go with B and say neither of the two ways required to dive into the water. All right, another submission here. Say last one, okay. Yeah, you can do one more. Let's do one more reading. Let's fill out this top row and then we'll move into maybe some math questions. Yeah. Yeah, usually you can get this without reading the notes. I think they're trying to make the questions a little bit harder so that you can't necessarily do that. But in a lot of cases, yeah, you'll notice that some of the answers just don't match up with the intended goal. So we could try that tactic here. Like here, the student wants to present the influence theory to an audience unfamiliar with the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Which choice most effectively uses the relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? This one, I don't know, let's see. Historian Bruce Johansen believes that the Great Law of Peace was very influential. That doesn't seem like it would work well if the audience was unfamiliar with this topic. It seems like that expects some level of familiarity. B says the influence theory is supported by the fact that Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson both studied the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. Maybe it mentions that, but I don't think it would be a good introduction for someone unfamiliar with this topic. The influence theory holds that the principles of the Great Law of Peace, a centuries-old agreement binding 6 native nations in the northeastern U.S., influenced the U.S. Constitution. That one includes some more details. And then D says native people, including the members of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, influenced the founding of the U.S. in many different ways. That one doesn't really introduce influence theory. Let's see. Let's read the notes a little bit. This theory is called the influence theory. So what? One of several scholars who believe that the principles of the Great Law of Peace influenced the U.S. Constitution. So between C and D, you guys have any ideas in the chat? Because I have one. Yeah, it should be C. The influence theory holds that the principles of the Great Law of Peace, so it talks about, I mean, like it explicitly tells us what the Haudenosaunee Confederacy is. It introduces it here. It says it's the 6 native nations. Here, D mentions the name, but it doesn't describe who or what they are. And yes, we do have to present the influence theory, right? It talks about the Great Law of Peace. That was a big part of the influence theory. So C just has all the elements that we need for that one. All right, what do we got? I cannot read that image. I cannot read this image that was put in the chat. It's a bit blurry, but let me know what topics you guys want to cover. I saw math mentioned earlier, so maybe we add a couple more. Let's see. I have a spot for maybe one more like reading type question, and then let me know what math topics you guys want to do. There's algebra, geometry, trig, statistics. Okay. Let me pull up this next question that's going to be reading and writing focus. See, we got one sent in here. I don't know, like, is it just me or is this screenshot is really hard to read? quite blurry. I have a different question for you guys. Yeah, I tried opening it. Oh, okay, I got it. Thank you. Let's do that then. Number 19 here says, which choice most logically completes a text? Okay, so it's like another inference question. We'll probably need the context here. So it says a team of biologists led by Jae-hoon Jung, Antonio Di Barbosa, and Stephanie Houghton investigated the mechanism that allows a Thaliana thalecress plants to accelerate flowering at high temperatures. They replaced the protein ELF3 in the plants with a similar protein found in another species, stiff brome, that, unlike A. thaliana, displays no acceleration in flowering with increased temperature. A comparison of unmodified A. thaliana plants with the altered plants showed no difference in flowering at 22 Celsius, but at 27 Celsius, the unmodified plants exhibited accelerated flowering while the altered ones did not. So just seeing that blank. Okay. So what did they change in these studies? That's really what I'm going to be focusing on. It looks like in this study they replaced a certain protein in the plants that they had with a similar protein found in a different species that has no acceleration. And then what was the result? They replaced the protein that shows no acceleration, and the unmodified plants accelerated, but the altered ones did not. So to me, it seems like the protein actually did, like they chose the right protein, it did affect the behavior. It seems like if they replaced the protein ELF3, then ELF3 would be responsible for allowing this plant to uh, do the accelerated flowering. So A says temperature sensitive accelerated flowering is unique to A. thaliana. I'm not sure about that one. A. thaliana increases ELF3 production as temperatures rise. ELF3 production? I don't know about production necessarily. I think it's just the presence or absence of it, so I'm gonna rule out preemptively A and B. ELF3 enables A. thaliana to respond to an increased temperatures. Um, well, that looks like the best choice here, because when they replaced ELF3, it was no longer responding. It was no longer accelerated growth at the higher temperature. And temperatures of at least 22 Celsius are required for A. thaliana to flower. Honestly, it seemed like it was 27 Celsius because there was no difference at 22. So it looks like C is probably the best choice here, because once they replaced the ELF3 protein, then they found that the flowers were no longer responding the same way at those increased temperatures. Okay, so I think it'd be good for us to move into some math questions. I see requests for data analysis with linear regressions. I see stats regressions. Regressions is not really a SAT topic. I mean, you could possibly do something in Desmos with them, but let's just look at what kind of statistics problems we do have on the SAT. I think these one variable data problems are pretty common. This one, if you guys know how to read a box and whiskers plot, it should be fairly straightforward. The box plots summarize the masses in kilograms of two groups of gazelles. Based on the box plots, which of the following statements must be true? What do you guys think? Well, Box plots, do they give us info about the median or the mean? Because based off that, we can rule out two of these answer choices right away. Because we are talking about median. The vertical line that splits the box in half, that is the median, the middle number, the 50th percentile. So we're comparing medians, and then we just have to see which one is higher or lower. And once we know that that's the median, we can easily identify that the median mass for group 1 is higher than for group 2. It's a difference of like 25 versus 24. So the only thing that matches up with is answer choice C. Okay, this next one is more statistics type problems, and it's also a very good one that I see a lot of people get wrong. So dataset A consists of 10 positive integers less than 60. The list shown here gives 9 of the integers from dataset A. The mean of these 9 integers is 42, and if the mean of dataset A is an integer greater than 42, what is the value of the largest integer from dataset A? I mean, that's basically saying we have 9 numbers here, their mean is 42. If we add in the 10th number, first of all, the 10th number has to be less than 60. Second of all, the 10th number has to make it such that the new mean of the whole data set is an integer and it has to be greater than 42. My guess would probably be that it's 43. But really the easiest way for you to do this, I would say, is to go into Desmos and plug it in. So I would plug in 43, 45 plus 44 plus 43 plus 38 plus 39 plus 40 plus 46 plus 40. You can verify that if you divide by 9, this is definitely a mean of 42. Now I want to add in another number, let's maybe call it like h, and divide by 10. You can actually add a slider for h, and we know it can be anywhere up to 60. So if h is 42, then the new mean is exactly 42. I can play around with the value of h here and limit it to like step sizes of 1, and I can see exactly what h value I can use or what unknown variable I can set such that the new mean is also an integer. And just playing around with that, it looks like the new number has to be 52 and the new mean would be 43. So you would take, so basically all these numbers go here plus 52. When you add 52, you'll notice that the new mean of this 10 items is going to be 43. So that definitely matches, that's an integer. So we add 52. The only criteria for this is that it has to be an integer, which it is. We can verify that the new mean, which is 43, is both an integer and it's greater than 42. Greater than 42, that's true. Yeah. And also our data point 52 is less than 60. So all of these criteria are hit when the largest integer that we add is 52. Let's see what other stats type questions we have here. Oh, we also have two variable data. Let me find a question on that. Two variable data. So this will be stuff like a lot of scatter plots. Scatter plots is a good topic that shows up in the SAT. This one shows a federal mandated minimum wage every 10 years between 1940 and 2010. No. Okay. What does the line of best fit predict about the increase in the minimum wage over the 70-year period? So the equation is y equals 0.096x minus 4 up. So we're going to look at the slope here because that's I think what it's asking about here. So each year between 1940 and 2010, the average increase in minimum wage was $0.096. I mean, that sounds right to me, right? Because x is a number of years. So let's go with A for now. B says each year between 1940 and 2010, the average increase in minimum wage was $0.49. No, that's not the slope here. That's the intercept. Uh, and that was also the negative of the intercept, anyways. Every 10 years, the average increase was $0.096. X is in years. X is not in units of 10 years. And then D again uses the wrong number. So, I mean, A is the only one that makes sense. That slope of 0.096 means that every year the average increase in the minimum wage is $0.096. So, like 9.5 cents per year. Obviously, it's not like it happened every year, but the scatter plot, the line of best fit, is telling us that that's a model for our data. Nice. Okay, I see you got a question submitted here, Mr. Emmanuel. I like this question. Where did this question come from? This is a real nice like SAT style question. If the function passes through the points c, 5 and 2c, 137, what's the possible value of b? So if we plug in c, and then that tells us that 5, the function of value, is equal to a to the power of c minus b. If we plug in 2c, then the function evaluates to 137. That's equal a to the power of 2c minus b. What is the possible value of b? One thing I might try is just get b equals on both sides. So like here you'd get b is equal to a to the power of c minus 5. Here you'd get b is equal to a to the power of 2c minus 137. Then you know that those two are equal to each other and you get a equation like a to the power of c minus 5 is equal to a to the power of 2c minus 137. You might be able to further rearrange this. Like what I see here is a to the power of c squared minus a to the power of c minus 132 is equal to 0. We can rearrange it like this. I don't know if that's the intended way of solving this, actually. But let's move through with it. So if I would plug something like that into Desmos, I can just assume a to the power c is x. So like x squared minus x minus 132 gets me, it tells me that if I solve this, I could potentially get a to the power of c equals to negative 11 or positive 12. So if I could substitute those values back in and get something like 5 is equal to negative 11 minus b, which would tell me that, or I guess we can even use this equation up here, right? B is equal to a to the power of c minus 5. So b could either be negative 16 or b could be 12 minus 5 equals 7. So I'm gonna go with a value of b equals 7, and just to make sure, we can plug this into the calculator, so something like f of x equals a to the power x minus b. I have the point c, let's set c equal to 7, and let's make the point c comma 5. And let's also change my a value. If c is equal to, no, c was not equal to, b was equal to 7, c was equal to, oh, just c. So I guess we can set different values for c. If we set c equals to x, no, I guess I don't really have a good value for c. But I see another way we could check this. Looks like when we have c equals to, let's try c equals to 1, for example. We can just plug in a value, like c equals to 1, b equals to 7, we get 5 equals a minus 7, so a looks like it equals 12, and so in this case, yeah, it looks like the function passes through both those points. Let me paste in the graph to show you guys what I'm talking about. So I could set a couple different, like I could set some c equals to 1 for something simple. C is not necessarily 1. C could be different values, and that would affect the values of a that you solve for. Like if c was 2, then a would be something different. But c equals to 1 is just the easiest case to solve for. So that's what I chose to verify my answer. This is just saying that when you double the value from c to 2c, it goes up by this much. See another math question here, so let me paste in that one. It's a quadratic equation, and in this equation c is a constant. The equation has no real solutions if c is greater than n. What is the least possible value of n? Well, this kind of just reminds me of the discriminant formula, which is talking about the part under the square root in the quadratic equation. If b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, that implies that we'll have no real solutions. So that's probably what we're going to want to go for here. So we want no real solutions. What's the discriminant here? It's going to be b squared, so negative 34 squared minus 4ac. We want this to be less than 0. So negative 34 squared is 1156 minus 4c is less than 0. Let me flip this, so let me move this 4c to the other side to get 1156 is less than 4c. And we can flip this and divide by 4 to get, or let me write it like this. 4c is greater than 1156. Divide by 4 to get c has to be greater than 289. So C greater than 289 looks like our solution. So N equals 289. And why did I set it less than 0? We know that if this part is less than 0, this is called the discriminant. It's the part of the quadratic formula that is under the square root. And if this is less than 0, then that square root evaluates to, it can't evaluate to a real number. So there's no possibility of real solutions, specifically if you set this less than 0. Yeah, I see ACT question. Let's do ACT question. And ACT science. Yeah, if you guys have some questions you want to submit, you can put them in the chat. Yeah. I don't have any ACT. Don't really do them because there's like a whole context of the passage. It's sometimes hard to fit that all in one box here. But the SAT style questions are a lot easier. This one says the graph of f of x equals x plus 2 over x squared plus x minus 2 is shown below. What's the domain of f of x? To me, it looks like there's a hole right here at x equals negative 2. And there's also a vertical asymptote at x equals to 1. Those parts are not going to be included in a domain of the function because we really don't have any valid function values at those points. So really it should just be j x. It's all x's except for x equals negative 2 and x equals 1. Another math question, another nice little math question. If r is greater than 0, s is not equal to 1/2, and r equals 3s plus 1 over 1 minus 2s, then s is equal to blank. I think we might be able to rearrange this one and solve for s. It might be a little bit tricky, but definitely possible. So we start off with r equals 3s plus 1 over 1 minus 2s. What I would do is just multiply both sides by 1 minus 2s to get rid of the denominator here. Oh. So that would cancel out this. We'd end up getting 1 minus 2, and we can expand this one out as well, so you get like r minus 2rs is equal to 3s plus 1. We're trying to solve everything for s, so I'm going to try to move anything that has an s onto one side, and everything that doesn't onto the other side. So like the plus 1, I'm going to move to the other side, and the 2rs I'm going to move to the other side. And then from here, I have s in 2 places, I want s in 1 place. So I would just factor out s from the right hand side. You get 3 plus 2r. So finally, when you divide everything by this 3 plus 2r, that's what's left when we had factored out s. We're going to end up with s is equal to r minus 1 over 3 plus 2r. Nice. That's going to be answer choice C. You really got me with these math questions. Just keep them coming. Okay. This one says, based on the equation above, what is the value of 3x minus 2? Solve by least common denominator. I mean, wait, what do you mean by that? How many questions do you need to answer on Adapt-to-Learn to get a predicted score? Oh, this feature I haven't really built out yet. I'm still wondering what's the best way to do it because it's hard. to predict the score without taking a practice test. But if I get more data and more people using the platform, then that's a feature I'm looking to build out. Get rid of the fraction. I'll show you how I would solve this one. It says 3x minus 2, right? If I had multiplied this in here, or no, honestly what I would do is this is equivalent to 3 over 3 9x minus 6. So if I subtract from both sides minus 2/3 of 9x minus 6 minus 2/3 9x minus 6, that'll cancel, and I'm left with negative 4 is equal to 1/3 9x minus 6. Well, what's 1/3 of 9x minus 6? When I distribute that in there, it's going to be negative 4 is equal to 3x minus 2. That's like we don't even have to solve for x here because that's exactly what we were solving for originally, is a 3x minus 2. So that's just going to be answer choice A. 3x minus 2 directly is equal to negative 4. Yeah, if you guys haven't already, I saw some messages in the chat about adapt to learn, so I built out this prep platform so that you guys can, it's at adapttolearn.academy. You can choose whatever questions you want to study, or you can just let the algorithm choose a question for you, and it's got answer explanations. So hopefully it'll help you guys get better at some of those questions. A lot of them are very similar to what we're doing right now. Yeah, let's do one more question. This one I remember from the paper practice tests, this complex numbers one. I don't think they test that anymore. No, I'm pretty sure they don't. But complex numbers. So no, I don't know. Look it up. Look it up. On the digital SAT, I think they took it out. Let's see. I swear they took it out. Okay, so in order to solve this complex numbers question, we have to multiply both the top and the bottom by the complex conjugate of this denominator. There's a specific fraction, which means we have to flip the sign on the bottom here between the real and the complex part. The real part is just 8, real 8. The complex part is 2i. I is an imaginary number. So what we do is we flip this to a minus sign instead of a plus. And in order to keep the value of everything the same, we multiply both the top and the bottom by this. It's just a bunch of FOIL now. So you see, like on the top, we multiply 3 into 8, that's 24. 3 into minus 2i is minus 6i. Minus 5i into 8 is minus 40i. And minus 5i into minus 2i is plus 10i squared. That's the top. On the bottom we have 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times minus 2i is minus 16i. Plus 2i times 8 is plus 16i. And then plus 2i times minus 2i is minus 4i squared. Now the other piece of information they give you is that I is equal to square root of negative 1. So you should know with complex numbers is that I squared is negative 1, right? I could square both sides here, get rid of the square root. I squared is negative 1. So we can replace that. We can combine some like terms. What we end up getting here is 24 minus, so minus 6i minus 40i is minus 46i. And then plus 10i squared. Well, if we know that I squared is negative 1, that just becomes a minus 10, basically. Same thing on the bottom. We have 64 minus 69 plus 69 cancel, and we have minus 4 times negative 1. Right? I squared is negative 1. So in total, when we simplify this, we get 14 minus 46i over 68. And that we can even split up the fractions further to get 14 over 68 minus 46i over 68. And if we divide everything by 2, we should get 7 over 34 minus 23i over 34. And that should be answer choice C. So just multiply by the complex conjugate. Remember I squared rule. Combine like terms. And you've got the answer. Yeah. Yeah, we'll upload this session on YouTube. I think this is a pretty good stopping point. I'll remind you guys about my Explore page where I have more test prep tips and you can access Adapt to Learn and things like that. Also check out my YouTube where I post all the Tutor Tuesdays. And we'll plan on seeing you guys next week for more SAT practice. Alright.